Welcome to Revenge Chronicles, where truth becomes the ultimate power. Today's story explores how a dying mother finally confronts her abusive family through a memorable final meal. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday. Terminal pancreatic cancer, stage 4. 6 months at most. After the doctor left the room, I sat alone with my thoughts, the crisp white paper of the examination table crinkling beneath me as I shifted my weight. Strangely, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. Not acceptance, not yet, but clarity. For 23 years, I'd endured my husband Robert's emotional cruelty, my mother-in-law Evelyn's constant belittlement, and my father-in-law George's financial exploitation. Their coordinated abuse had become so normalized that I'd stopped seeing it for what it was. But now, with death approaching, everything crystallized. I wouldn't spend my final months living in fear. I would reclaim my dignity. And I would make sure they understood exactly what they had done. I drove home that day with a plan forming in my mind. A final family dinner. 7 courses, one for each major form of abuse I'd suffered. 7 opportunities to confront my tormentors with irrefutable evidence of their cruelty. My name is Margaret Wilson, and this is the story of my last supper. Robert didn't suspect anything when I told him I wanted to host a special family dinner. To bring everyone together one last time, I said, my eyes downcast in the submissive pose I'd perfected over the years. He barely looked up from his phone. Whatever. Just don't spend too much on it. Your cooking's never been worth the expense anyway. I nodded meekly while something new flickered inside me. Not the familiar hurt that usually accompanied his casual cruelty, but anticipation. Over the next 2 weeks, I meticulously prepared. I ordered custom menu cards from a high-end printer. I withdrew $5,000 from our joint savings account, money I'd earned but never felt entitled to spend. I practiced my recipes until each was perfect. And most importantly, I gathered my evidence. For years, I'd kept records. At first, it was just receipts from money I'd loaned to George for his failed business ventures, $37,500 that he'd never repaid. Then came screenshots of Evelyn's hateful text messages about me to other family members. Voice recordings of Robert's late-night drunken rants where he'd detail all the ways I'd ruined his life. Photos of bruises that I'd told doctors came from falling down the stairs. I had everything I needed. I just had to wait for the perfect moment to serve it. The evening of the dinner arrived on a chilly Saturday in November. I'd decorated the dining room with elegant simplicity, white linens, silver candlesticks, and a small centerpiece of white roses. At each place setting, I'd positioned a menu card listing the 7 courses, each with a cryptic name that only I understood. Robert's parents arrived first. Evelyn immediately began her usual inspection of my home, running a finger along the mantelpiece checking for dust and clicking her tongue disapprovingly. "I see housekeeping still isn't your forte, Margaret," she said with a thin smile. "Though I suppose some women simply aren't cut out for maintaining a proper home." "I did my best, Evelyn," I replied with the practiced smile I'd worn for 2 decades. George settled heavily into the armchair, already eyeing the bar cart. "Got any of that scotch I like? The expensive stuff Robert keeps for special occasions." "Of course, George. I made sure to have it ready just for you." My brother-in-law Michael and his wife Diane arrived next, followed by Robert's sister Jennifer. They all exchanged warm embraces with Robert and his parents while offering me polite nods. I'd always been an outsider in this family, tolerated but never truly accepted. As they chatted in the living room, I put the finishing touches on the first course in the kitchen, my hands trembling slightly, not from fear but from anticipation. When Robert finally entered the kitchen, he looked annoyed. "What's taking so long?" "Everyone's waiting." "It's almost ready," I said. "Would you mind asking everyone to take their seats?" He grunted and left without offering to help carry anything, just as he had for our entire marriage. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and picked up the first tray. It was time. Course 1, the honeymoon salad. I placed delicate plates of arugula, shaved fennel, and orange segments before each guest. At the center of each plate was a small white envelope. "What's this supposed to be?" Robert asked, prodding at the envelope with his fork. "It's part of the experience," I explained. "Each course comes with something special. A memory." Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "How unconventional." The word dripped with disdain. Please, open your envelopes, I encouraged as I took my seat at the head of the table, a position I'd never occupied before. Inside each envelope was a wedding photo. Me in my white dress, beaming beside Robert. On the back, I'd written the date and the promise Robert had made to me that day: I will cherish and protect you always. I thought we might start with a toast to beginnings, I said, raising my water glass. To the day Robert promised to cherish and protect me. Robert shifted uncomfortably in his seat. What kind of game is this, Margaret? Not a game, Robert. Just dinner conversation. I smiled pleasantly. Did you know that 2 weeks after this photo was taken, Robert grabbed me by the throat and pushed me against the wall because I'd bought the wrong brand of coffee? It was the first time he hurt me physically, but not the last. The table fell silent. Michael stared at his plate. Jennifer glanced nervously at Robert. Diane looked at me with wide eyes. That's absurd, Robert spluttered. She's making this up. Am I? I reached beneath the table and retrieved a small tablet. I tapped the screen and Robert's voice filled the room. You're so fucking stupid, Margaret. You can't do anything right. Remember when I almost choked you over that coffee? Should have finished the job. I stopped the recording. That was from 3 months ago. I have quite a collection of these little confessions. Evelyn put down her fork with a clatter. I don't know what you think you're doing, Margaret, but this is completely inappropriate dinner conversation. I'm sorry you feel that way, Evelyn. But I think you'll find the second course even more inappropriate. Course 2, Mother's Love Soup. I served a chilled cucumber soup, each bowl accompanied by a printed stack of papers fastened with a delicate ribbon. These are transcripts of text messages Evelyn has sent about me over the past 15 years, I explained, watching as they reluctantly untied the ribbons. I've highlighted some personal favorites. George skimmed the pages, his face reddening. Now see here, Margaret, page 3, paragraph 2 is particularly interesting, I interrupted smoothly. That's where Evelyn tells Robert he should divorce me because I'm barren and useless. This was sent the day after my 3rd miscarriage. Evelyn's hand flew to her throat. Those were private conversations. Yes, they were. Should have finished the job. I stopped the recording. That was from 3 months ago. I have quite a collection of these little confessions. Evelyn put down her fork with a clatter. I don't know what you think you're doing, Margaret, but this is completely inappropriate dinner conversation. I'm sorry you feel that way, Evelyn. Just like my fertility struggles should have been private, but you made sure to discuss them with everyone in the family, didn't you? Jennifer looked at her mother in horror. Mom, did you really say those things? Evelyn's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The soup is getting cold, I reminded everyone. It's cucumber. Robert once told me it was the only thing I could make that wasn't completely inedible. I smiled at my husband. Though you phrased it much more colorfully at the time. Course 3, Financial Trust Risotto. The mushroom risotto came with bank statements and loan agreements, all bearing George's signature. This course celebrates the $37,500 I loaned to George from my inheritance for his can't-miss investment opportunity. Money I never saw again, despite his promises to repay me any day now for the past 12 years. George's face flushed crimson. Those were business investments. Markets change. Funny, because the other investors in your scheme received partial repayments. Just not me. According to these emails between you and Robert, I tapped another document. You both agreed that I didn't need to be repaid since my money was family money anyway. Robert slammed his fist on the table. Enough. What the hell do you think you're doing? I'm having dinner with my family, Robert. I thought you'd appreciate me finally speaking up. You always complained that I was too quiet at these gatherings. Michael, who had remained silent until now, cleared his throat. I had no idea about any of this, Margaret. Of course you didn't, I replied kindly. No one wanted you to know. Just like no one wanted you to know about the 4th course. Course 4, Isolated Lamb. The lamb chops were arranged in a circle, separated from each other on the plate. With them came a stack of declined invitations and a journal. This represents how systematically you all worked to isolate me from my friends and family, I explained. Every time my college roommate invited me for a girls' weekend, Robert would create a crisis that required me to stay home. Every time my sister wanted to visit, Evelyn would schedule a competing family event that I couldn't possibly miss. I opened the journal to a marked page. This is my diary from 10 years ago. I wrote about how I hadn't spoken to anyone outside this family in 3 months. I wondered if anyone would notice if I disappeared. Jennifer put down her fork, food untouched. Margaret, I had no idea you felt this way. How could you? Whenever we were alone, you were told I was fragile and emotional and shouldn't be upset with difficult conversations. That's what Robert told you, isn't it? Jennifer looked at her brother, who stared stonily ahead. It's a common abuse tactic, I continued conversationally. Isolation. Makes the victim dependent on their abusers. Very effective. Diane stood abruptly. I think we should go. Oh, but we haven't reached the main course yet, I said. And you won't want to miss that. It's quite revealing. Course 5, Gaslighting Sorbet. I served a simple lemon sorbet palate cleanser. With it came medical records. This course is lighter, just like how you all made me feel like my perceptions were insubstantial, imaginary. I passed the records around. These are from the 3 times I went to the emergency room. A broken wrist. 2 cracked ribs. A concussion. Robert's face drained of color. Each time I told the doctors I fell. Each time Robert told me afterward that I was remembering things wrong. That I was clumsy. That I was exaggerating my injuries for attention. That's not what happened, Robert hissed. No? Then what did happen, Robert? Please enlighten us all. He remained silent. The doctors suspected domestic violence. They asked me repeatedly if I felt safe at home. I lied to protect you. I looked around the table. I protected all of you. Your reputations. Your careers. Your precious family name. Michael stood up now. Margaret, I'm so sorry. I never knew. Sit down, Michael, I said firmly. We are not finished yet. Course 6, Inheritance Wellington. The beef Wellington was served with copies of a will and trust documents. My father left me a significant inheritance when he died. $1.2 million and the lake house in Vermont. But somehow, the money ended up in our joint account, Robert. And the lake house was sold, with the proceeds invested in your business ventures. I smiled thinly. Ventures that mysteriously failed, with no accounting of where the money went. I slid a document toward the center of the table. This is my father's original will. And these, I produced more papers, are the forged documents Robert used to gain control of my inheritance. Note the slight differences in my father's signature. George's hand trembled as he reached for his water glass. The statute of limitations on fraud is still open, I noted. Just something to consider. Robert stood now, his chair scraping harshly against the floor. This is ridiculous. I'm not listening to any more of this. If you walk out that door, Robert, copies of everything I've shown tonight go to the police. And my attorney. And the IRS. Remember those offshore accounts you thought I didn't know about? I found those too. Slowly, he sank back into his chair. One final course, I said. Dessert. Course 7, Terminal Truth Cake. The chocolate cake I served looked ordinary enough. But instead of documents, this course came with a single medical report. Pancreatic cancer, I said simply. Stage 4. I have about 6 months. The silence that followed was profound. That's why I wanted this dinner. Not for reconciliation. Not even for revenge, really. But for truth. I won't go to my grave having protected people who never protected me. I stood and walked to a side table where I'd prepared 7 manila envelopes. These contain everything I've shown you tonight, plus much more. Financial records. Medical reports. Recordings. Photos. Each of you gets a copy. What you do with it is up to you. I handed them out one by one. But you should know that tomorrow morning, another set of these documents will be delivered to Detective Sarah Chambers at the county prosecutor's office. She's very interested in financial fraud and domestic abuse cases. Robert's face contorted with rage. You vindictive bitch. Careful, Robert, I interrupted. Everything you say is being recorded. This entire dinner has been. Just one more piece of evidence. I returned to my seat and cut a small piece of cake. I've already filed for divorce. I've secured a restraining order. I've moved most of my personal belongings to a location you can't access. You can't do this, Evelyn whispered. I already have, I replied. For once in my life, I'm setting the terms. The next morning, I sat in Detective Chambers' office, watching as she reviewed the evidence I'd compiled. "This is extensive," she said finally, looking up at me with a mixture of professional admiration and personal concern. "You've built a very strong case." "I had time to prepare," I replied. "Mrs. Wilson, Margaret, with evidence this compelling, we can move quickly. Your husband and in-laws will likely face serious charges." I nodded. "Good. May I ask why now? After all these years?" I touched the medical report in my purse. "Let's just say I finally realized that life is too short to live it on someone else's terms. Even if my remaining time is brief, it will be mine." 3 months later, I sat in the courtroom as the judge delivered the sentences. Robert, 8 years for domestic abuse, financial fraud, and forgery. George, 5 years for conspiracy and fraud. Evelyn, 3 years probation for her lesser but still significant role. As they were led away, I felt no triumph, no satisfaction. Only peace. The cancer was progressing faster than expected, but I'd found a small cottage by the ocean where I spent my days painting, a hobby Robert had always mocked. My sister had moved nearby to help care for me. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years now visited regularly. Even Jennifer and Michael had reached out, horrified by what they'd learned and eager to make amends in whatever way they could. I won't see another Christmas. I won't see another spring. But for these final months, I'm living authentically. The prison I existed in for 23 years turned out to have a door I could open all along. I just needed the courage to walk through it. If my story helps even one person recognize their own worth and find the strength to reclaim their life, then my final feast will have served its true purpose. Remember, dear viewer, that freedom often begins with truth. Thank you for watching this entire video. I hope it resonated with you. If it did, please subscribe to see more stories of those who found their voice and reclaimed their power. Your journey matters, and you deserve to walk in truth.